A little girl, a dark secret, and a mother who refused to listen. But when the truth came out, it was already too late. In a small town called Kato, a little girl named Lua lived with her parents, Mr. Airy and Mrs. Asa. Lua was just 7 years old, a child who should have been full of laughter. But her house was always silent, filled with loneliness. Her father, Mr. Airy, worked from home as a website designer. He rarely went outside. Her mother, Asa, ran a big fabric business and was always busy. Lua spent most of her days alone, playing with her dolls, waiting for someone to notice her, but no one did. One evening, her father entered her room. His voice was soft, but something about it scared her. "Lua, I want to show you something, but it's a secret," he whispered. She didn't understand, but she trusted him. He was her father. That night, her life changed forever. It started as whispers in the dark, footsteps approaching her bed, the sound of the door creaking open. Lua felt something was wrong. "Daddy, I don't like this," she whimpered. But he didn't stop. Tears streamed down her face. She tried to push him away, but he was stronger. When it was over, she curled into a ball, shaking. Her father leaned down and whispered, "If you tell anyone, something bad will happen." The next morning, she sat at the breakfast table, her eyes swollen from crying. Asa was busy writing down orders. "Mommy," Lua whispered. "Why does Daddy hurt me?" Asa didn't look up. "Lua, I'm busy. Go do your homework." Lua's heart sank. She was alone in this nightmare. For days, Lua tried to tell her mother. One evening, she stood beside the dining table where Asa was counting money. "Mom, can I talk to you?" she asked hesitantly. Asa sighed. "Lua, what now?" "It's about Daddy. He does something to me at night and..." Before she could finish, Asa snapped. "Lua, stop making up stories." Lua's chest tightened. "But Mom, Asa slammed the pile of money down. "I don't have time for this. If you're not happy here, maybe you should go live somewhere else." Lua turned away, silent. No matter how hard she tried, her mother would never believe her. She was trapped in a nightmare that no one would save her from. Lua stopped trying. Her father's threats haunted her. "If you tell anyone, I will make sure you regret it." At school, her teacher noticed the change in her behavior. Lua, who once smiled, now sat alone. "Lua, are you okay?" her teacher asked. Lua forced a nod. She wanted to tell her, but fear held her back. That night, she sat on the staircase, watching her mother laughing over the phone, talking about business. She hugged her knees and whispered, "I wish I had a mother who cared." One evening, Asa came home earlier than usual. As she entered, she heard strange noises from Lua's room. She frowned and stepped inside. Her blood ran cold. Mr. Ari was there, doing the very thing Lua had tried to tell her about. For a moment, Asa couldn't breathe. The world around her spun. Lua was trembling, tears streaming down her face. Asa screamed, shoving Mr. Ari away and pulling Lua into her arms. For the first time, she saw the truth. "Mommy," Lua sobbed. "I tried to tell you." Asa felt her heart shatter. She had failed her daughter. Without hesitation, she grabbed her phone and called the police. The police arrived within minutes. Mr. Airy protested as they handcuffed him. "You were never home. What did you expect?" he shouted. Asa didn't listen. She held Lua tightly, whispering, "I'm so sorry, my love. I should have believed you." Lua didn't speak. She was too exhausted, too broken. The trial was quick. Mr. Airy was sentenced to life in prison, but even though he was gone, the pain he caused remained. Lua was taken to counseling, where she slowly began to heal. Asa, filled with guilt, quit her business. Nothing mattered more than her daughter. For months, Asa stayed by Lua's side, making up for lost time. She cooked for her, played with her, and most importantly, she listened. Lua was hesitant at first, but with time, she started opening up. One evening, they sat by the window, watching the sunset. "Mommy," Lua whispered. "Yes, my love? For the first time, I feel safe." Asa felt tears in her eyes. She hugged her daughter tightly. "And I will never let anything happen to you again." Lua smiled, a real, genuine smile. The nightmare was over. Lua started seeing a therapist. At first, it was hard. Talking about what happened made her cry, but her counselor told her, "It wasn't your fault. You are not alone." Slowly, she started to believe it. She made a new friend at school, someone who made her laugh again. Asa was always there to pick her up, always ready to listen. Healing was a slow journey, but Lua was no longer afraid. Mr. Airy sat in his jail cell, staring at the walls. He had lost everything: his wife, his child, his freedom. Other prisoners knew what he had done. They hated men like him. Every day, he lived in fear. The same fear he had once forced upon Lua. This was his punishment. Years passed. Lua grew stronger. She decided to help other children like her. She spoke at events, telling her story. She told people, always listen to children. Their voices matter. Asa watched her daughter with pride. She had failed Lua once, but now she would never let her down again. As Lua stood in front of a crowd, she smiled. She was no longer a victim. She was a survivor.